DungeonBorne, a new hack-and-slash dungeon crawler that hit the market last weekend. Is it worth playing, or is it just another boring game? If you're looking to play this game, or you've played it but you can't make your mind up about it yet, trust me, this video is for you. As always, I'm going to be 100% honest, I'm not affiliated with this game, just a gamer dude like you. I'm going to kind of ramp this video up, so there's kind of like two parts to this tale. On launch, the game looked clean. First few startups had no issues, but I did experience some black screen issues on later launches. You then get dropped into a tutorial zone and you kinda run a mock dungeon, and here's where I started noticing some things. The game feels slow. So slow. From movements to your attacks, it just got very annoying trying to navigate through the slowness. Everything just felt like it took forever to do. The character customization is quite simplistic, but it does give you the full range, so you can make somewhat of a lifelike character to play with. You are presented with several classes to choose from, and none seem to be locked behind a paywall. That's huge because not all games do this. We keep seeing more and more games lock things behind the paywall before you even get into the game. I feel like we may see some of them in the future. We have to take into account this is a free-to-play game, so in the future if they add some new crazy classes, they might put these behind a paywall. The graphics were pretty solid, but I wasn't a huge fan of some of the textures. Some looked very plasticky, and the reflections and rims of objects didn't feel immersive or realistic, but quality-wise it was solid. I'm just very picky with some stuff. My first few runs after the tutorial did go very smoothly. It just felt like everything took ages. Walking down corridors took forever, so this was kind of like a downside to my adventure because I just kept feeling like I was making no progression. It is a dungeon crawler, so looting was great. I found drop rates to be decent but still rare enough to make you have to keep searching for better gear and loot. I quickly realized an aspect that I still think needs to be slightly altered. When you die, you lose everything, and I mean everything. From the gear you brought in with you to all the gear you've picked up in that instance. When you die, everything gets left behind and you can't go back to get it. So basically every death means you're starting from scratch, which is super annoying. There is a way around this that I found later on. If you do play with a group, they can actually pick your stuff up, and when they leave an instance with your gear, it actually gets sent back to you automatically, but not everyone has friends to play with. You do have a stash storage, but it's very limited at first, so fitting multiple sets in case of death isn't the easiest. But once you get enough gold, you can actually expand this stash storage with the in-game gold, which is kinda great because you can earn this gold easily through quests and while you're adventuring. So then you can spend this to expand your storage, and it gives you a little bit more room to store extra gear. But still, the lose everything on death is crazy. That needs slight altering in my opinion. I feel like losing all the gear gained in that specific dungeon is okay. Losing everything altogether that you brought in with you is just crazy, that's way too much. I would even be okay with losing maybe one random piece of brought in gear on death. I feel like when you die, maybe a dice roll and whatever number you get gives you the choice to choose a few pieces of gear that you can bring out with you while everything else gets left in. That kind of still punishes you, but at least you get to leave with at least something, and it's all based off RNG. Because at the end of the day, this is very discouraging for new players who don't really understand the game fully yet. And it actually had me kind of annoyed during my first few hours, I was actually getting heated. I then tested out what I thought was the PvP mode. But it was quite fun. You got some free gear to use in the game mode to try different builds and see what was nice and what worked. It was kind of a box room close quarters game mode, so things felt quick even with the slowness of the game. But now, let's talk about the game's PvP. On my first few dungeon runs, I didn't find or run into any other players, but then when I did, without warning, a fight ensued and I was totally destroyed. Partially because I was still a heavy noob, but also because I wasn't aware of the fact that this is forced PvP. Yeah, this game doesn't currently have a PvE mode. I wasn't aware of this, but now it added another level of difficulty to the game, because not only do you lose everything from death or have to deal with mobs, you may be killed by other players and sent back to square one while someone else grabs your loot. That kind of rattled me when it happened, but I kind of started getting over it. Because at first, all of these things, the pace of the game, the forced PvP, starting from scratch over and over again, It was a little too much and I got a bit stressed, but to test games, I normally shoot for around 8 hours of playtime before I say anything. Now, running into my 6th hour of playing, everything started to change, and I am not joking, I am so confused on why I feel like this now. So the game allows for you to create different characters and you have multiple slots. So change class until you find what you like. I found a class that I liked, came to terms with losing everything and PvPing if I was attacked. So once I got all of that into my head, I kind of realized that the extra threat wasn't actually that bad. It made me think, it added a layer of pressure and excitement, and I just kept jumping into more games over and over, regardless of if I died or got killed by another player. Before long, I forgot how slow the game was. Plus, as I was leveling and using my different gear sets, my character was moving quicker, surviving more, and it started making sense. I do still strongly believe the fighting animations need to be sped up because I almost felt like if I wanted to attack, I had to premeditate my attack by like 3 seconds so I actually hit my target. When you started doing combos, it was a little bit easier, but your first initial attacks, if you don't premeditate that, you're going to die. And also, fighting with different characters and fighting against different characters also showed a big balancing requirement. Some classes are quite overpowered against some of the other ones. Like for instance, sword masters are kind of super weak against most of the classes, so some rebalancing is kind of needed because these guys need to either be made stronger in terms of defense or give them some better moves, because once you use their move, they're literally done and their secondary move is kind of trash. One thing I really have to mention is the simplicity. In a world where games are just so overcomplicated, this game is presented very simplistically and the navigation is super easy and it isn't overbloated with garbage tabs that we don't need, so everything feels sleek and simple and easy to get used to. I didn't really notice any kind of storyline or theme going on because it would be nice to have a story maybe every season or so. With every new type of event, there's a story behind it. I might have to look this up, maybe they have something on their wiki or something, but right now in the game it doesn't really point to that and I feel like it makes the game a little bit bland. Now, the in-game store. At the moment, it seems very cosmetic, which is a breath of fresh air. This game has like no pay to win. Knowing you don't have to fight people's bank accounts is a nice feeling, especially on a forced PvP game, because if you could buy things with money and then I have to go against that in the freaking dungeons, hell no. There is also a heirloom gear system, which was very nice, meaning if you keep losing things or you keep dying, every time you come out and you have at least one piece of gear that you can dismantle, you can work towards unlocking gear, or if you can accumulate some gold, you can buy some gear, dismantle it, and now you can unlock armor that you can always craft. So in reality, you're never really starting from square one once you get past a certain point and you have these armors unlocked. So if you're kind of annoyed about the fact that you have to start over again, look into this because it kind of takes away that pressure and that annoyance because you have gear that you can always make and it's always going to be there for you. I do think the game does need a PvE mode, maybe with like a lower gear drop rate, or maybe you have to go into PvP instances to find high quality gear or PvP instant locked gear sets. Maybe they could separate it in that way to give some players who don't always want to do PvP an option to not do PvP. I really did enjoy the adrenaline of being on guard at all times, so for me, I'm going to continue playing PvP even if they do add a PvE mode because the adrenaline is crazy. When you and your squad destroy other squads, you feel like you are him. If they do add some PvE and raise the attack speed just a little bit, I think this game is going to be a hit because it's one of those games where if you have 30 minutes or 20 minutes before bed, you can hop on, run a delve and go in and just run an instance for your 14 minutes, get in, get out, and you're done. You can put this game away. It doesn't continue when you've left. The game is quite difficult, but in a fun way. The world bosses are hard to kill, but they are killable, solo or in a group. Making this game as grindy as they did makes it low-key addicting. The game is so good, but it only levels out if you play through like roughly 4 hours of gameplay. If you don't, you might think this game is dog, but really you just need to play a little bit more to get used to it. I think this is why we're seeing a lot of early disgruntled 30-minute dropouts, and those are the reviews a lot of people are seeing, and these people have like 1 hour, 30 minutes, 20 minutes of gameplay and they're review bombing the game. But honestly, if you play 4 hours straight and get over that hurdle, I'm promising you, if this is your genre, you're going to love this game. It does feel hardcore, but it is fun. Every aspect of the hardcore parts seem to have like a counter that helps alleviate the hardcore elements. Overall, it's a good game. Give it a chance. It's free to play, so jump in, do the grind. I think you should try to aim for level 10 to 15. That's where you can kind of start making your mind up about the game, and try to use 2 different classes, because I'm telling you, it's actually not that bad. I initially came into this, and while I was playing the game and trying to make up a review in my head, I thought I was going to actually give a very negative review, but now I'm like, it's not that bad. So take it from me, I am super hard to make happy, and I actually enjoy the game. But yeah, that's my DungeonBorne review. I'm almost at 16 hours and it's staying installed. It's put me through a roller coaster of emotions. I can play with friends to make things easier, so I would recommend it. If this is your genre, just play the game. There's a lot of potential going forward, as they can add more instances to explore, and there's so many things they could add over time to make this game bigger and better. But hey, let me know your thoughts about the game below in the comments. Don't forget, if it's your first time here, make sure to like, subscribe, share this review to the doubters and people who you know will like the game, but they just don't know if they really will. And until next time, I'll see you on the next one.